From the IMTV Wave Channel 5 studio at Greenville Senior High School, home of the Greenville Green Wave, the Greenville Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library proudly presents Never Stop Serving. And now, your host, Mike Maloney.
Hello, everybody. It's a glorious day to shoot our finale of Never Stop Serving. It's the end of the year, and you know we always have a good time at the end of the year with our digital library. We have a very, very special guest today. We're very thrilled to have him. We'll talk about that in just a minute. First, I wanted to tell you that one of the things the students did this year was worked on the backdrop. And if you look at some of our episodes for this year, you'll see that we have a new backdrop. They've been working on green screens and learning that stuff. We're actually here this time. So if you go back and look at some of the episodes, you'll see the park. We're actually in the park this time. It's a little misty, I'll say, today, but we're in the park. You know, we're actually in the park, and we have a fantastic guest. We're going to let him go right now. Right now, I'm very, very honored to present to you the Honorable Warren Davidson, 8th Ohio District Congressman. Thank you, sir, so much for being here.
Thanks a lot.
Please, sir, like we do on Never Stop Serving, please give us your name, rank, serial number, where you grew up, your high school, your parents, marriage, all that stuff. Please give us your background and then your military service.
Yeah, so I grew up in Sydney, Ohio. I graduated high school in 1988 and enlisted in the Army out of high school. Growing up, my dad was a toolmaker. I had one sister. I grew up on 512 3rd. My best friend grew up on 512 2nd. You know, he's black, I'm white. He's a Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton fan. I'm on the other end of the political spectrum. We're still good friends today. But that's kind of like life growing up. And after high school, that's what I wanted to do, is join the Army. So I enlisted in the Army after high school and was over in Germany when the wall came down, 1989. When I was there, probably one of the highlights was meeting people that were in East Berlin, and they had come over to West Berlin, and it was, you know, truly their first hours on this side of the wall. And they are asking me, you know, is it like this everywhere? And I thought they were talking about a big city, you know, because I'm from a small town, and Berlin was huge to me. You know, it was the biggest city I had been in at that time.
So were you actually signed to the Berlin Brigade, or?
No, I was actually in Schweinfurt, which is over kind of between where East Germany and Czechoslovakia came together, a little ways in from there inside Germany. And when the wall came down in 9 November, I was in Bad Tolz training with 10 Special Forces Group, and then that ended, and we came back, and over Thanksgiving, me and a few friends went up to Berlin for the weekend. And so we walked through Checkpoint Charlie in our Class A's and went over to East Berlin to the nicest restaurant in East Berlin, and we really got a kick out of East Germans serving us Thanksgiving dinner. That was pretty good. Yeah. But since then, you know, by the time I left in 1990, the wall was down and the border was open and people were traveling back and forth. And literally that same weekend, I met people who were crossing freely, and they were curious, and we were curious about them. And they said, is it like this everywhere? I thought it was a big city. And they were meaning, no, like the stores are open at night and you can get fresh milk and the shelves are stocked. Because the way they had gone about life wasn't producing that. They had central planners telling people what to grow, when to grow it, how much to sell it for, what they could stock in the store, what they couldn't, who could buy these things and who couldn't buy those things. And it produced a lot of scarcity and a lot of poverty. They came over to West Berlin, and they were seeing our system, our market-based system, that produced lots of opportunity, a distributed form of wealth, but lots more wealth than what they could have in their country. And that was just, you know, really amazing to see. Great experience, and now freedom has been embraced in a different way in Germany than the United States, but certainly that border's gone. The wall's down. The country is integrated, and the good success that they've had in West Germany is now part of all of Germany, and they're a united country. So I went from there to West Point, which isn't the normal route, but I got the chance to go to West Point and pick up a great education there and a commission. So I came out in 1995 as an officer. Married my wife about a month after graduation. I had met her just before I started, so we dated all the way through. And so as an officer, I served in a number of units. I went as an infantry guy again and served in Ranger Regiment. I served in the Old Guard. I served in the 101st Airborne Division, and then I got out. And I like to say, I got out in part because I was stuck between two Johns. You had John Kerry on the one hand that said famously, air conditioners are a greater threat than ISIS, and I don't agree with that. And then John McCain on the other hand that's anxious to find 2 or 3 more wars this month, I think. But, he respect his views. He's a great American, true hero for our country. But I don't agree with his policy on how actively we should commit our forces around the world. It's spread our forces very thin, and it's led to a lack of focus. And we really haven't had that since the Cold War. We haven't had that clarity that truly unified our country that we did briefly after 9/11. And so from then to today, we've had that. I thought those 2 poles would continue to dominate politics, and so I decided to get out. Got out in 2000, and then came back to Ohio and been involved in manufacturing ever since. Started a company, bought several, including my dad's, and it's been a lot of fun. And then at the end of 2015, I decided to run for Congress.
How did that come about? I mean, obviously John Boehner quit abruptly.
Yeah.
And when he quit, did you say, "Bing, this is my"?
No. When he quit, I wasn't planning to run for Congress. I was still focused on the business, but I was just curious who was going to be our member of Congress, probably like everybody else.
Right.
And I was going to put an addition onto one of our buildings, a stamping plant in Troy, West Troy, and the guy that came out to give me a quote on it was a Marine when he was younger, and his son had just graduated from the Naval Academy. My daughter was getting ready to go to college, though not to the Naval Academy. And so we're just talking life, but the day before, Jim Jordan, a nearby congressman, had been questioning Hillary Clinton about Benghazi, where we had 4 Americans killed, and the State Department didn't protect their embassy, and the United States didn't really react very well to provide security for that embassy, even when they were overrun. And so the public explanation was by Hillary Clinton that a YouTube video had caused this attack in Benghazi, Libya. And Jim Jordan was questioning her, is like, now that we have access to your emails due to the email scandal, how is it that you sent an email to your daughter that said, we know it's not a YouTube video, it was Al-Qaeda, and you send the same thing to an ambassador in Egypt, but what you told all of us and these families here whose loved ones have been killed was something totally different. Could you explain that? And, she couldn't, obviously. We were pretty fired up about that. And Hillary Clinton had famously said, what difference does it make about what was the cause and things like that. So we were pretty fired up. And that led to me, him say, hey, have you ever met Congressman Jordan? I said, no. And so I met him about 2 weeks later. Said, you guys really like each other. And Congressman Jordan had asked me, well, who do I like in the race to fill the seat that it was opened by John Boehner. And I said, well, I know this guy's running and that guy's running. He said, well, is that who you're going to vote for? I said, well, I don't know. Probably not. I mean, I voted for one of those guys and actually supported one of them. But I kind of look in a different way in Congress, in part because of national security. And in part just because a non-political background seemed like a good path for the country. Well, some of those conversations led to a number of people saying, well, why don't you just run? And I said initially, well, because it's crazy. Because it was. I was, not known as a political guy. I didn't have the kind of infrastructure that it takes to win politically, or I didn't think I did. Yeah. And so I told my wife about my day one day about that, and she said, well, what'd you tell him? I told you what I told him. I told him it's crazy. And she said, well, call him back. You'd be great at that. And so that led to a bit of a discussion about what would it be involved. And, about a month or so later, then I started going, that was early November. This would be, early December, right after Thanksgiving anyway, that we started seriously looking at it. decided to jump in. We ended up filing papers about 10 minutes before the deadline. So
of course,
rather than I'm on it right out of the gate, I was like I think I was the last guy to file, or certainly one of the last ones standing at the filing box.
well, that's outstanding. That's outstanding because I'll tell you, we're ecstatic first to have you here, and ecstatic that we're getting more veterans into the political arena. It's slowly occurring. I don't think it's happening fast enough. I don't think we have enough veterans in politics, and we should encourage veterans to get into politics.
Yeah, we are closer. We were a little over 15% in Congress when I got there last summer. So June 9th.
But that's way down, isn't there? Like a
history? Way down. Yeah, it's very
way
low.
Down, yeah.
Very low.
Yeah,
and it's closing in on 20%. We had a couple good veterans come in this last class.
Mm-hmm. Who are they?
Well, Brian Mast is one. He's a double amputee. Was unfortunately an EOD expert with a mishap on the EOD side.
Right.
And but a guy from Florida. We've got a guy from a Marine from Wisconsin, Mike Gallagher. We've got a Navy SEAL from Virginia, and so a handful of others. But those are I think we've got 6 or 7 veterans total that came in out of this last class of 55.
Yeah,
so.
That's good. It's good to see him. I was just surfing Facebook and I found a friend I served with over in Iraq. He's in the state legislature in Oklahoma. I was so glad to see that. I was like, wow, that's good. I was like, it's a lot more need to step up. Well, what else, sir? What else do we miss? Let's see. We talked about how you got married, went to school, and your service. And clearly now you're doing something very important. Do you do anything else beyond that? I mean, that's enough, trust me.
Yeah. Well, I'd say, look, when I first joined the Army and as an oath, you say, your oath is to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And,
that's right. That's absolutely right.
And when you swear in as a congressman, your oath is the same. The first part of it's the same. Mm-hmm. And so for me to keep that mindset, I fished the dog tags out, put them on, and said, hey, I want to do the service in the same spirit. And I will say that I've found that to be the case for a number of people, some who never served in the military, but their passion to serve is really akin to why people would join the Army. That story doesn't really get out often enough about the kind of quality and character of some of the people that I've met in Congress. But on the other side, there's a couple layers of truth there to some of the negative things that you see in politics too. Sure. But there are more.
And I think veterans help with that. With the animosity, and because we in the military we learned that we may not like this guy, but we surely have to listen, or this guy or gal listen. Especially if they outrank and stuff like that. So I think that would be good for the Congress,
right?
To add more veterans.
Yeah, so that's good in a couple other ways. I mean, outside of family, so we've got 2 kids, which has been one of the greatest joys of life. One of the biggest surprises is how great it is to be a dad. So
congratulations.
Nothing better than that. And then just active in my community and church, and that was kind of the way I was before I decided to jump into politics. And a lot of those networks weren't political. People didn't think of it as political. But then when you go start campaigning and talking about what you want to do, it's really everyone gets a vote. And when people weighed in on the election, I might have known them through church or a sports league or something else, business community. But then when it came time to get involved in the campaign season, everyone went and voted, and it's neat to be part of the process. I think it's important for the public to really engage in the discourse.
Yes.
And I think it's important to really change the tone in some ways, because everything's kind of become binary. You're yes or no. This is good or bad, and there's really a hard time in the public media.
Not a lot of discussion, is there?
In the public media, yeah. Well, there's a lot of ranting, a lot of
discussion,
arguing,
though, yeah.
But real dialogue and really trying to understand the complexities of the issue. Why would somebody favor this position? What is it that they're really concerned about here? And you take any debate, and it's like, well, yeah, this person's going through it in a different way. Where you respect their experiences, but this person felt the same way. They just drew a different conclusion.
Right.
And so it's led to in our public discourse, I think, a lack of really dialogue and understanding, and it's just this binary yes, no, good, bad, right, wrong. And not to say there's not right or wrong. You have to have principles and convictions. But I do think that we would be better served by really doing a lot of what I saw in the military, which is, instead of playing your cards like this, hey, we're literally all in it together. All the cards are on the table. Best idea wins. Let's do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. I got one more question for you. Obviously, we're connected to the VFW here, the library mission and so forth, and we're deep in the American Legion also and the other service organizations. What advice or what, you're our elected leader, what should we be doing more of? What should the service organizations be doing more? How can we help?
I think the biggest thing that service organizations do is they care for one another. And so you get that sense of camaraderie that units bring, the sense of, we are in it together. And you look at, one of the most tragic things in our country is veteran suicides.
Yes, absolutely.
And suicide starts looking like an option when people feel disconnected. I mean, me and a group of friends get together. We call it infantry breakfast. It's morphed over, and some guys that aren't in the infantry come now, or weren't in the infantry. And you're just there for guys that are dealing with stuff. We had a few friends that were dealing with things, having a harder time with it than others. And, we'd meet, talk, get to know more about somebody new that came to the group that week or month, and pray for one another. Haven't heard from somebody for a while, call them. And the same, if you're in a tough spot, give us a call. And I think that kind of that kind of sense of community is one of the most important things that service organizations do. Is first and foremost, when you say love your neighbor as yourself, the premise is they actually love yourself. Right. And you have a right perspective of life. And so in the service organizations, first take care of the people that are part of it. And then one of the things, as you've seen, I'm sure, as a veteran, is there's a lot of unity that comes from working together to get something done. And so inside the community, you've done a lot of things, including things like this park here. Right. It's something the whole community can enjoy. You look at things that happen through the community and parades and involvement, it raises awareness. And I think the other thing is just connect to young people and get them to understand what would inspire someone to serve. In some cases, because they were drafted, we're in a different era. I'd love to see our all-volunteer force continue to sustain our country. But to do that, we have to do the kinds of things that merit that, which is we stand with our veterans. We take care of them. We know that if you've made this commitment and you agree to serve and wear our nation's uniform, we as a nation will take care of you. And so fixing the VA is one of the most critical things our country can do.
I agree. We need to work that hard.
And Congress truly that's one of the most bipartisan things. We don't always agree. Right now there's a bit of tension about what's the right role of unions inside the VA. How hard is it, or how easy is it to hold someone accountable for top-level performance?
Right.
How many layers of discipline, corrective action, and counseling do you need before you go, yeah, this might not be the place for you?
It's complex, though, isn't it? It's
not an easy issue.
People don't realize you spend a lot of time, don't you? It's a lot of your time, isn't it?
It is, and you have whole committees devoted to it. And I think the idea that people don't get the issue is true on some things, but this is one that I think people really understand it and wrestle with it. Change is hard. This is an organization with over 300,000 employees in a long history, and a lot of public support. So how do you change it? Well, it won't be overnight. And unfortunately, in the meantime, people really do fall into despair, and that's where the whole broad community can be there for one another when they need it. We do have to get it fixed. There are some good solutions on that issue coming out of Congress this summer, I believe, finally out of the Senate. There's been lots of bills out of the House that the Senate just hadn't taken action on, and my understanding is this summer we'll see some action in the Senate.
Excellent. Well, good luck with that, sir, and I really do appreciate you being here. Everybody from the high school appreciates it, and we wish you the best of luck, and go out there and get them and represent the Veterans Force, please.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for what you do for these students as well.
Yeah, you're going to help us give out awards, right?
I am.
All right, I'm going to make a couple announcements here. They're going to show you where to go.
Right.
Okay?
Thanks a lot.
All right, Lori will take care of you there.
All right.
Thank you, sir. All right, folks. Very happy to have the congressman here. I want to talk a little bit about our summer calendar here at the end of the year. But first, I very much want to thank again Congressman Warren Davidson for showing up here and telling us a little bit about himself and helping us present awards. I also want to thank IMTV. They're always so helpful with us, and they're the best. What can I say? And we're going to give out some awards here in just a second, but first I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of what we're still doing this summer. First, I'd invite you to go back and look at our previous episodes, either from last year or this year. They're all really good, and there's some really good veterans in it. For example, this year, we interviewed Colonel Cassie Barlow. Now she's written a book. So please, if you get a chance, check out her book. There's a whole story there about her grandmas, saluting our grandmas and so forth, and talking about people there. Check out that book. And then on the 24th of June, in Xenia, they're going to have a motorcycle ride for veterans. Be sure to check that out if you can. And then on then July 8th, the 3rd District VFW Ohio is going to have their summer picnic in Enon. It's actually a Fairborn address, but it's in Enon, Ohio. It's going to be a great picnic. I have it on good authority that there's going to be some very wonderful people in the dunk tank. So check that out. Also, right here at the VFW, July 29th, we're going to have the poker run. So sign up for that and follow the details for that. And then through the end of the year, after the end of the year and start of the new school year, we'll have our 3rd talent show. So be sure to tune up for that and make sure you're ready to go for that. With that, we're going to transition then. Go over to the awards here. So give awards here to show our appreciation. Right. Yeah, she comes. First up is Amber Hutt, a member of the TV team. Thank you very much for your help. Then we have Kevin Gully, member of the IMTV team, and he's also looking in his ROTC gear. Look at that, looking good. Michaela? It's Michaela Bailey next, IMTV team. Thank you very much for all your help, Michaela. Jacob Snyder. Next up, Jacob Snyder, looking great, looking sharp, part of the IMTV team. Thank you so much for all your efforts this year. Next up, Paige Burns, IMTV team. Thank you very much for your help this year. Did an outstanding job. She's still doing some editing. I saw her the other day doing some editing for our episodes we're still working on. Next up, Tyler Fleming, IMTV team. Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you very much.
Noah Gates is up next, IMTV team. They're all doing sensational work for us. Just watch it. You watch them grow. And now we're moving into our volunteers that help us throughout the year with the talent show, promotions, whatever else. This first guy, Scott Keys, he's been exceptional. Stage crew, you name it. Anything I've asked for, he's helped me. Thank you very much, Scott. Next up, Robert Jones. Robert Jones is our MC, and he's also a huge advisor. We really appreciate his help. He also has many family members engaged with us. Rob is also a congressman. He was a capital page back in our high school days for Tom Kindness.
How about that?
Yeah. Next up, Robbie Grimm. Again, he was helping with the stage with Scott. Them two are the dynamic duo. They also beat us up last year at the talent show and won the People's Choice. Blues Brothers. There you go. Next up, Sharon Young. Sharon Young's a very good friend of mine, Dennis Young's wife, and she's helped out tremendously. In a pinch, she helped us out at the talent show, danced around for us. Thank you, Sharon. Next up, full disclosure, is my wife, Julie Maloney. She's helped out exceptionally. Very supportive of everything the library's doing. And also through her connections, H&R Block got us a big fancy check, and now they're our sponsor. Next up, the other half, Dennis Young, huge support to us. 3 generations of a military family there. His dad was a member of the Sons of the advisor for the Sons of VFW back in the 70s. Next up, Katie Hurd helped us out in a pinch, aka Mrs. Annie Oakley. Miss Annie Oakley, not Mrs. And next up, the beautiful voice, did our Star Spangled Banner, Michelle Fanning. All right, so this next one I'm not really prepared for, so Congressman, you gotta help me out here real quick here. Help me out here. Do me a favor here. Say thank you, Cassie, very much, or something like that, and then sign it for me, will you? Yeah. You too, sir. Okay. Next up is Cassie Rapier. She did our art for the last talent show. It's fantastic. She's been fantastic support. She's been a great leader in IMTV, and we're going to miss her talent very, very much. Now she's going to get a signed copy of her poster. Can't beat that, can you? Thank you very much, Cassie. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All your help. I knew you were going to take the Scooby-Doo van, Lori.
I just didn't want to go above the Congress.
There you go.
Thanks.
There you go. Thank you, friend. Last up, the leader of the team, Robert Halls, IMTV. Very much appreciate his support. He took this program from last year and made it his own, and we're real proud of everything they did and the progress we did. I did want to mention the people that aren't here. Carsimia rep here. Yeah. Lena Johnston, Mark Rich, Danielle Young, Stephanie Huber, Matt Kinsley, Joe Henry, and Carter Cox. Thank you guys, even though they're not here. And Congressman, a little something for you. You know, you get free breakfast and a t-shirt for showing up. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Tremendous.
We appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a fantastic year.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, thank you both for what you do. I really appreciate it. So I get something to say thanks for you guys. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Everybody, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And you're coming in for breakfast, right?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll check with Ben on the calendar. I can stop in and have coffee. I
sure.
I think I'll overserve.
Yeah, that way I get everybody a chance to say. Thank you again. If you volunteered or helped out in any way, breakfast is free. If you're just a straggler, sorry you got to pay. But everybody else, you're good. Tell them you're with the library.
Thank you for watching. Please visit us on our social media sites. Please consider contributing to our mission in some way. Also, we are always looking for veterans and their families to share their stories with us. Be sure to join us next week for our next episode of Never Stop Serving.